particular posture.
Balaram's leaning on Krishna?
Yeah, Balaram's leaning on Krishna. So Prabhupada said, Balaram, Krishna's stronger. He's holding up Balaram. Everyone would think Balaram, because Bala, Ram. Bala means strength, or spiritual strength. Okay, another question. Let me think. I'm just making these questions up now. Can't think of any other ones. Name a place in the Shastras where the Supreme Personality of Godhead got very angry. Huh?
You mean a book?
A particular pastime.
Oh, okay.
When Lord Chaitanya got angry. Yeah. Shringadev, yeah. What's another one? Shringadev, that's easy enough. Parsuram, yeah, he killed the Kshatriyas 21 times, 21 generations.
Every Asura has that.
Oh, okay, here's one. Name of time where the Lord laughed in anger. Oh, that's the one. He laughed, but he was completely angry. That's the one I was thinking of. I think there's 3 incidents. And 2 of them are by the same person, but in different manifestations of himself. Does that help? No. And the answer is when Lord Nityananda came to the house of, what's his name? Ramachandra Khan. Ramachandra Khan was the one that tried to vilify Haridas Thakur by sending the prostitute. So when Lord Nityananda came there, his servant announced to Ramachandra Khan that Lord Nityananda has come. And the response was, oh, Lord Nityananda's, he can stay in the cowshed. So it was an insult. The 3 personality of Godhead comes and he can't have any place, he can stay in the cowshed. So Nityananda just laughed. And he laughed so strongly that he practically shook. And then, but his laughter was a symptom of his anger. And then he left the place immediately. And right after that, the Qazi of the area came and just plundered the whole area, all the people in the area, and took Ramachandra Khan, put him in jail, and destroyed all his property. He was finished. So first he offended a great soul, then he offended the Supreme Lord. He was actually a great personality, Ramachandra Khan, but he was proud. Just like Daksha got proud and tried to do something to Lord Shiva. And another one was when Balaram came to the Kurus. You remember that story?
Yes, and he wanted to make peace because they were going to attack the king Hastinapur and the...
Well, they had stolen
yes.
the bride, yeah, Samba's bride. They had stolen Samba, wasn't it? Yeah. So Balaram, they said, when Balaram made his demands, they said, the shoes have now risen to the top of the head, which means the lower part of the body now thinks they're the upper part of the body. So that's what they criticized Balaram for that. And Balaram just laughed, took out his plowshare, and then started to drag the whole city of Hastinapur into the sea. And Prabhupada said, today you can see Delhi is kind of like slanted because Balaram moved it. But when they were doing that, when he was doing that, they got scared and they started offering prayers to Balaram, and then he stopped. But he was ready to take the whole city and dump it. So, anger in the service of the Lord, or anger by the Lord, is the greatest service. Okay, for those of you who didn't come, I have a word here at the very beginning. What day of the week was Lord Krishna born on? Wednesday. You were here, right?
Yeah, it was just in the pre-nomination, he said it was Wednesday.
Oh, you heard. Yeah, it's in the Gopal Champa. Krishna is born on midnight in the jail. So if anybody says, jails are not a bad place, Krishna was born in jail. So we preach in jail also. Any of you been to jail? Okay, me too. not as a preacher though. You were there as a preacher. Anybody been there in another way? I have. Trying to do Sankirtan. We got thrown in jail a few times. Okay, so we'll begin the class. We are going to do Yasomati Nandana. Yasomati when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was departing this world, Srila Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj, he requested 2 songs to be sung. One was Jasavati Nandana. It was one of his favorite songs. Sirupa Manjari Pada. He loved that song also. Sirupa Manjari Pada Himorat Sampadana Sehi Mora Bhajana Bhujana. Beautiful. Devotees should do that more often, just get together and do bhajans. Bhajans are really nice. My god brother, Agni Dev, wherever he goes, he does bhajans. Brings the devotees together. These bhajans are just as good as the Maha Mantra. They're deep in devotion to Krishna. They're really sweet. Okay, so we'll continue with our topic on preaching. And I have one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is from the 7th canto. In the 6th chapter, verse number 24, Prahlad Maharaj is speaking to his schoolmates. Do we have a board we can write on? Because I want to do a little interaction today and collect some ideas and write them down. We don't have a chart board or something, flip chart?
Maharaj, can you do it on a computer? Maybe jot it down?
He could type it.
Yeah.
I could type it.
Yeah, he can type it.
Yeah, okay. It'll be very easy to do. Okay. So this is the verse from, we can actually do the verse also. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu. Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu. Dayam kurata saudadam. Dayam kurata saudadam. Bhavam asuram umbuchya. Bhavam asuram umbuchya. Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha. Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha. Tasmat sarvesu bhutesu. Tasmat sarvesu bhutesu. Dayam kurata sauridam. Dayam kurata sauridam. Bhavam asuram umbuchya. Bhavam asuram umbuchya. Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha. Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha. Tasmat sarvesu bhutesu. Tasmat sarvesu bhutesu. Dayam kurata sauridam. Dayam kurata sauridam. Bhavam asuram umbuchya. Bhavam asuram umbuchya. Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha. Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha. Someone want to try?
Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu.
Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu.
Dayam kurata sohridam.
Dayam kurata sohridam.
Bhavam asuram umbuchya.
Bhavam asuram umbuchya.
Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha.
Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha.
Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu.
Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu.
Kurata sohridam.
Dayam kurata sohridam.
Bhavam asuram umbuchya.
Bhavam asuram umbuchya.
Tushyat yadhoksakjaha.
Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha.
Anyone else? Some of the ladies?
Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu.
Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu.
Dayam kurata
Dayam kurata
sauridam.
sauridam.
Bhavam asuram umbuchya.
Bhavam asuram umbuchya.
Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha.
Yaya tushyat yadhoksakjaha.
Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu.
So I'll go right into the translation. This is Prahlad Maharaj, and he's speaking to his schoolmates who are sons of demons. He says, "Therefore, my young friends born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers." Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, 1855, "Bhaktyamam avijananti yavanyas-chasmi tattvataha." One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as He is only by devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj ultimately instructed his class friends, to the sons of demons, to accept process of devotional service by preaching the science of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. The Lord will be immediately extremely satisfied with one who engages in this service of preaching Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita, 1869, "Nacha tasmad manushesu kaschid me priyakritamaha." There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and His supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes the dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is bhakti. As one performs this service for humanity without discrimination between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied and the mission of one's life is fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone to become a guru devotee and preach Krishna consciousness. Yadi Dake Tarikaha Krishna Upadesh. That is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By such preaching, the preacher becomes satisfied, and those whom he preaches also become satisfied. This is the process of bringing peace and tranquility to the entire world. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka mahesharam suhidam sarvabhutanam yatvam mam santam richyati. One is expected to understand these three formulas of knowledge concerning the Supreme Lord. One, that He is the Supreme Enjoyer, that He is the proprietor of everything, and that He is the best well-wisher and friend of everyone. A preacher should personally understand these truths and preach them to everyone. Then there will be peace and tranquility all over the world. The word saridam, friendliness, is very significant in this verse. People are generally ignorant of Krishna consciousness, and therefore to become their best well-wisher, one should teach them about Krishna consciousness without discrimination. Since the Supreme Lord Vishnu is situated in the core of everyone's heart, and everyone is the temple of Vishnu, one should not misuse this understanding as an excuse for such words as Daridya Narayana. If Narayan lives in the house of a Daridya, a poor man, this does not mean that Narayan becomes poor. He lives everywhere in the houses of the poor and those of the rich. But in all circumstances, he remains Narayan. To think that he becomes either poor or rich is a material calculation. He is always Sad Aishvarya Purna, full of 6 opulences in all circumstances. Om Gyan Timurandasya Gina Jana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So again, we're here, and we hear it quite often when we read Prabhupada's books and listen to his lectures, the importance of spreading Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said, "Do what I'm doing." But no one can do what Prabhupada's doing. But he meant do the same thing I'm doing, even if it's not in the same caliber. So he wanted, and this is the mood of our movement, and it's a preaching movement. It's a movement of bringing others to Krishna consciousness. And people are suffering, and there's no question about it. As the society continues in its, what we say, present state of affairs, things are only getting worse. Just recently, there was a statistic released in the United States that in the last 20 years, there has been a 25% increase in suicides. That's 1/4. Now, if you know a little bit about suicidal statistics, you also know that people who actually commit suicide, as opposed to those who attempt suicide, is smaller. And so most people who try to commit suicide fail. So they're talking about those who are successful. So even the statistics are even higher. So that's, and therefore people are frustrated. You see it everywhere. And they take to more and more riotous ways of living just to somehow or other overcome their boredom. There was another statistics, this goes back a lot farther, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And the United States is famous for statistics. It's because they have nothing else to do.
Among other things.
Yeah. You know, they even take statistics on how many times they take statistics. You know. So it's, and it indicates the results of this specific statistical calculation. They wanted to find out what is the percentage of people who are happy, what is the percentage of the people who are unhappy. And so it's based on material considerations, of course. So they came up with the statistics, 5% of the population is happy, 5% of the population is unhappy, and 90% are bored. So that's another form of unhappiness. People are bored. So they do everything and anything just to overcome their boredom. So, yeah, the world's in a pretty... So preaching is better now than ever before. And it's always going to be like that, as long as Kali Yuga consists of, you know, the way it's going. So we have a good opportunity to spread Krishna consciousness. And there's so many ways you can preach. Sometimes the standard way is to go around and travel and give lectures, and that is, of course, just one of the different ways. So I would like to explore maybe today just different ways that one can do outreach and preaching and see how many we can come up with. And maybe that'll be inspirational for devotees to think, oh, here's a way that I can plug into, or here's a way that I can become more actively engaged in. So, what is the thing that Prabhupada said is the most important form of preaching? Book distribution. So maybe we can write these down. Yes. You're a fast typer? Good. Okay. Most important. Well, of course, every form of preaching is important, but Prabhupada wanted to make that point, that distributing books. He had said one time, what is the use of your 3-minute lecture? Better to, give them a book. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says that when you do counseling to people, in other words, one-on-one, it's more effective than giving a class. It's more effective than giving a class. In other words, the word he uses, the person who takes individual interest in persons who are needy, by giving them instructions, guidance, is more effective than the platform speaker. That was his analogy. Okay. What are other ways? We did this last time in Slovenia. We came up with about 30 ways to preach. Let's see if we can beat that today.
Harinam Sankirtan.
Harinam Sankirtan, distributing the holy name. Okay, yes. Prashadam, distributing prashadam. Prabhupada said 50 miles within range of each temple there should be prashadam distributed. When Prabhupada was leaving the world in 1977, or just prior to him departing, he made this point a few times in those last few months, that people have a very difficult time becoming Krishna conscious simply by giving philosophy. He says people cannot understand philosophy. Their minds are too dull. So he said we should continue with our flooding of the world with Harinam, the holy name, and Prasadam distribution. He said these two things are the main ways to just flood the world, yes.
Retaining devotees also kind of preaching, because instead of outside, we did also
Preach to the choir, preach to us.
just to retain whatever we have also is important. Then
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Just
Well, that give us an example of that in terms of an actual program that's ongoing. Bhakti Vriksha, good, that's what I was thinking of. Bhakti Vriksha, another form of preaching. Well, later on we'll get into the details of the different programs. Ladies? Any ladies over there? Yes. Oh, okay, ladies are everywhere. Okay. On both sides, yeah, okay.
Be a Vaishnava, or a Vaishnava. Act like a Vaishnava.
Achar.
Acharya.
Yeah, achar. And one's etiquette. Preaching by way of example. And what did Prabhupada say? Example is higher than precept. Example is higher than precept. You can speak, but if your activities are not in line with your vakya, your words, then it has very little effect. Annapurna.
Festivals? Festivals.
Festival, yeah. Indradumna Maharaj is famous for doing festivals, and also, who was it, Tribhuvanath in London. He started festivals and they're being done now. His followers are still carrying out his festival programs. He would go and start festivals, mostly in Africa and then in other places in Europe. And just invite people to come. What's another way? Yes? You can speak in French and somebody else will translate.
In Ukraine and in Russia, devotees preach common things about family life, about healthy life, and the people become vegetarians, and then they won't go to the movement Hare Krishna.
Vegetarianism, in other words, talking about becoming non-violent in the way you're eating. Okay, we can use that. In other words, come to the mode of goodness, and don't cause harm to other living entities, and live in your family life as a nice person. That's nice, okay.
Maharaj,
Could
could you call this bridge preaching?
That? Yeah, that's kind of like bridge preaching. Bridge preaching means something that's less direct, but it brings you ultimately to the direct. Yes? That's you. Okay.
Just being out in the temple, so I'm a long-distance walker, and I realized that the best way to preach is just dress as a Vaishnava, have tilak, or just, look like a Vaishnava, just put tilak, tilak, and japa, and we'll send Hare Krishna, so you can ask a question, and you can start preaching spontaneously.
Yeah, why are devotees afraid to go out in devotional clothes? We have that problem. What would be, okay, let's talk about the fear of going out in devotional clothes, or the reasons why you don't do it. Yes.
Work.
You
So
work.
You know,
Okay.
if they see you, they can.
So
Because
they'll fire you if you...
No, but they.
If you go to work in devotional clothes, that's not the best. Okay. That's one. Okay, we're just exploring the negative mindset. Yes.
For fear of abuse,
What kind of abuse? Like verbal?
violence.
Somebody might do something to you because they don't like you?
Yeah, because they don't like the way you're dressed.
Okay. Possibly in certain areas of the world, especially in places in Serbia. I know you can't walk around like that. Where else? In other places?
I was just almost attacked in Portland, Maine.
Portland,
A
Maine.
couple of days ago, just because of the way I was dressed.
Really? That's unusual. That's usually
It's unusual, but it does.
because we preach in Portland, Maine. Oh no, Portland, Maine. Oh, Portland, Maine. I was thinking of Portland, Oregon. Okay. No, that's a whole different place. Yeah, okay. Another fearful aspect of dressing like we should dress. Yes, Purnamasi.
Can we fear of having to live up to our own thoughts we have?
In other words, I have to act like I'm supposed to act. I'm no longer can let it all hang out. I have to kind of have to behave now. And I'm not ready for that yet. Okay.
It's easy to trip and fall when you're wearing robes.
I mean, that's really... He said you could trip over your dhoti.
You have to be a seva style.
It depends how you tie it. Yes, Nicola, yes.
Along the same lines, your dhoti can get caught in your bicycle chain if you're riding a bicycle.
Well, we don't recommend that. That you don't do. What's another fear?
The weather.
The weather is too cold.
Yeah, it's too cold.
Too cold for dhotis. Some devotees were walking down the street in, where was it? Hartford, Connecticut. And it was Vaishnava Swami was there. And Priyari Mohan. And so they were walking down, three or four devotees. And so somebody looked at Priyari Mohan and said, "Hey man, what's with the bed sheets?" And he said, "It's too hot for blankets." So it was in the middle of July. So that completely disarmed the attacker, and he said, "Oh, okay." That was the only response. But people come up to me and say, "Are you Buddhist?" And I say, "No, I'm Hare Krishna." And they say, "What's that?" And then I just chant the mantra and say, we're chanters and we chant this mantra, and this mantra is the glorification of the Lord. So it actually gives you an opportunity to preach in many places, yes.
That's what I was going to add, Maharaj. Maybe some devotees, they don't want to have to preach. Like they know if they're just like this, then automatically they'll have to be preaching to people asking them.
So that's bad.
No, but they might not be in that mood, mindset.
I just think devotees, and there's so many answers, but one of the ones is that we just have to start behaving like we're supposed to be. And maybe that's a little hard all of a sudden. Yes.
What about sometimes, devotees have a fear that because they look a lot different than, average people, and they're dressed differently, completely differently, they're afraid that they cannot relate with them because of the dress difference. So therefore they don't dress in devotional clothes for that reason.
Or maybe to avoid attracting attention. That could be it. But that's when we say an obvious reason. But okay, so dressing, what would be another way? Yes,
I think it creates you know, if people feel uncomfortable around you, or they think if I listen to you, I'm gonna have to dress like that, then it actually creates a barrier. Like at the airport, for instance, if you're distributing books, you walk out in your clothes, and some people like walk to the other side of the universe, or they throw you out, or whatever.
Yeah, I find it's both positive and negative. The positive side is you get a chance to, and some people appreciate that. When they see it, they smile, or they give a nod, or something positive comes from someone. They like it.
Or even as blessing for your newborn baby. It happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blessing.
Or they say,
Yes,
Hare
somebody
Krishna.
just went to me and please bless my baby. And I was dressed in the silvery with my tea like in my duffel bag. So, okay.
And you did it.
Of course.
Yeah, so the baby's now on its way. So yeah, yes, Krishna Kirtan.
Some people say they like to dress like a devotee because it automatically eliminates people who are too conservative to take a book anyway.
That's the positive one.
Yeah.
Dressing like a devotee. Okay, let's explore a few more of the different ways. Yes.
Making videos on YouTube?
Your videos, YouTube. Okay. That one is not so that's a little non-confrontational. You can just. And today, one of the biggest ways to reach people is through the visual media. People are on all kinds of media nowadays. So, just like Shiva Ram Maharaj has started these little, what do they call them? Podcasts, which are about, it's a video, and it's put on YouTube and other things, Facebook or something. And he takes a topic, and he just talks about the topic. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the topic, and it's posted. And then I went on one of them, and I saw there was like 3,000 hits, and that was it just after it came out. So yeah, videos are really good. Yes, do
Sunday feast?
Sunday feast programs. Make the Sunday feast a preaching program and not simply a place to gather and just go through the functions. Besides the lecture, you can do so many things in the Sunday feast too. When I first joined in New York in 1970, this was in 73, in the very beginning, the Sunday feast program was so powerful that I became a devotee because of that. You'd walk in, and they had Julian Yatra. They were swinging the deities, although it wasn't the time for Julian Yatra. This was in Brooklyn, and was Henry Street. And we came, new people, we were swinging the deities. Everyone would come in, you'd swing the deities, and then they give you a flower, and you put a flower there, and then you go in, and one after another, they greet you like this. And then Jayadvaita Maharaj was there giving a lecture. And then after the lecture, they had different activities, such as a drama on particular pastime of Krishna, the Vaikuntha players. And then they also had a japa session. They were announcing, anybody want to learn how to chant, come here. And they passed out beads, and they were teaching people how to chant on beads. And then there was, right after that, there was the feast, of course, that was the best preaching. And then right after that, more bhajans. So after going through that whole evening like that, you just felt like you were in the spiritual world. Especially for new people, it was like, wow, like a high. So yeah, we need to really dress up our Sunday feasts, make it really organized, and have a whole series of activities that people can get involved in. And not just let them come and sit for the lecture and then have some prasadam and go. Yeah.
Just as you just said, that Sunday feast is just not like people come, lecture, prasadam, but it should be a little bit popular to attract the first timers.
Yeah, and more organized.
More organized.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's another way to a priest that I recently discovered called fiction or your writing. So you write about Krishna. You can write blogs, stories. Just write out the word, do comics. Just get out of the comfort zone, literally wise. If
Okay.
people
Writing books,
making comics,
writing articles,
yeah.
starting your own little newsletter, temple newsletter. I know a lot of devotees who have newsletters. Yeah. What's another way?
Deity worship.
Deity worship. Prabhupada said for the Indian community, make the deity worship so gorgeous that they want to come back. He said, especially for the Indian community, they are really attracted to opulent deity worship. So that's a very nice way, deity worship. Do it in. Also, you can teach people how to worship the deity in their own home. Have programs for teaching. Yes. Kirtan. Kirtan in the temples. Or in-temple kirtans, kirtan melas, cooking classes. Another way. Yoga, preaching in yoga studios. Okay. That's big in some places around the world. Where we're going to yoga studios and doing kirtan, distributing prasadam. Yes?
Astrology.
Astrological
reading, because people are
Astrological readings?
Yes, people are very much into that nowadays.
What are you going to tell them?
You're going to die, you better chant Hare Krishna.
Okay. That should be the last statement of all astrological readings.
If you chant Hare Krishna, then all this thing with Rahu will happen to you. There you go.
There you go. Astrological readings. That's a little shaky, but we can work with that one. Yes.
We have a little temple at the house. So
Mhm.
when people come in, they ask questions.
So home programs. Yeah, doing home programs. Especially for those of us who live in the home with families. Don't depend on the temple always for whatever you need. Start your own little programs at home. Invite your friends, neighbors. Yes, good.
Krishna Club at universities?
Krishna Club, okay. At universities and colleges, and just like students who are devotees who are practicing, they can start a club, and then they get into the Hindu society, and then they call it a Hindu, and then people come who are Hindus, and then they teach them Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yes, there was one.
Door to door.
Just knocking on people's door. Yeah. There's some, I think it was in Denver, Colorado. They just mapped out the whole city and went from door to door. In Slovenia, it says that every home in Slovenia, there's only 2 million people in Slovenia, everyone has got a book. Every house. They do, this is another form of preaching, it's called Padayatra. They took a bull, and then they go out with a bullock cart, and they travel, and they do books and kirtans in different places. And devotees go to the houses as they go into different areas, knock on the door. They see this big bull outside their house with a cart. It looks kind of, spectacular, and it becomes interesting. And then they speak and sell them a book. So they combine book distribution with Padayatra, yes.
It's a film like Yadu Bharat.
Ah, this is good. Making Krishna conscious, videos, films, yeah.
Radio interviews.
Motion pictures. That's a big thing. But if you can do that, it takes a lot of time and energy, but it's and resources. Yes.
School programs? School programs in the class, different classes.
Going into colleges, high schools, like that. I did that for years, going to colleges and high schools. And the teachers would always become Krishna conscious. I didn't get much students, but I got mostly teachers. You know who's very effective when you go into colleges or high schools is grihastas. Sannyasis are not so effective when they go into colleges or high schools. People think, this is not my lifestyle. I'm not going to be like that. But when they see a grihasta couple, someone who identifies with them as individuals, they're more eager or more able to listen to people, to listen to the lectures. I found that more effective. Krishna Duo?
Gurukul.
Preaching in Gurukul. How's that? How would you explain that?
Well, having Gurukul is preaching.
Having Gurukul, okay. Starting Gurukul schools. That's very important. Prabhupada said this is the future of our movement. Taking care of the children and giving them the maximum amount of attention and facilities so they can grow into Krishna consciousness. Yes?
Cow protection.
Protecting cows. Okay. So how does that fall into preaching?
Gives people knowledge about cows and how sacred they are and how we should protect them and serve them.
Okay. There are many newsletters based on cow protection and showing how you can actually live more simply. Okay. Yes.
Along with cow protection, you say farm communities.
Farm communities. Prabhupada said something many, many years ago when he was here. He said, we have 2 solid programs. Farm communities, book distribution. So what did he mean solid program? Means if you put energy, time, and effort in there, you get good results. The only problem with our farm communities is that we didn't prepare properly, and therefore, a lot of times we just thought starting a farm means a farm community. It's not like that. It takes a lot of foresight to really put it together in a proper way. So devotees don't just start working on the farm and have no time for everything else. So there are many successful. There are Saranagati, right, in Canada. It's like a farm community, but it's more like a rural community, right? And Gita Nagari, New Vrindavan, other places, New Rajadam, Hungary. Yes?
Festival takeover. Basically, when it's a festival, not a Hare Krishna festival, they goes there, dressed as Vaishnava or as Karmi, and then they sneak in and they just take over. Distribution, Harinam, distribution.
Somehow I missed some of that.
Okay, sorry about that. So, there's a festival, not a Hare Krishna festival, like the one we're going to, the yoga festival. We come in, we either dress as Vaishnava or as Karmi, and then in the festival, where there's thousands of people, we distribute books,
Right.
and flip and Harinam if possible. And in Montreal, there is a whole lot of festivals.
Good. Yeah, everywhere people like festivals, especially during the summer months. This is a good time for festivals. Nice, that's good. Just go in and do Krishna consciousness in people's festivals. Every year, I think in New York, they go to the Gay and Lesbian Festival. And we set up a table. And of course, we have to be careful what we say, but and there's certain topics that we just avoid. But they like our books, and they allow us to come in their festivals. It's in different places we've done that. Yeah. Rath Yatra. Oh, you go. Now you got one of the king of preachings is Rath Yatra. And so many people become, what we say, purified, or they take a step forward in their spiritual life. And some people actually become devotees at Rath Yatra. I think I mentioned the other day that when we were doing one Rath Yatra, one devotee was doing a japa tent. So in that japa tent, he had a little japa kit. And people would come and they teach them how to chant japa, and then they give them a little book, a set of beads, and also a set of instructions on how to chant. And in one Rath Yatra, Washington, D.C., we did 2,000 sets of books in one day. So that's how many people came forward just in that one day to chant japa, 2,000. In other places we did 700, 500. So that's good, teaching people to chant. Nowadays the holy name is becoming more and more a commonplace in different areas of the world. So people are interested in something, and we can spread the holy name in different places. Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
This has happened to me. I did media preaching when I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, many years ago. I was the temple president, and this was in 1987 when I came there, but 1993 was the year. And Cincinnati, Ohio was in the middle of the Farm Belt in America. So all around the areas, there's a lot of farms. So this was in July, and there was a drought. The entire area hadn't received, for Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, all that area, no rain in about 3-4 months. That was from like May, June, July. And it was such a catastrophe, or such an emergency, that they restricted water use, and anybody who went beyond the restrictions were given fines. Couldn't water your lawn, nothing. So there was one man, he was a lawyer, he had done some law work for us, but he also was a disc jockey. And he had a radio show. And his radio show was a talk show, and it was from 9 a.m. to 12 o'clock every day. And it covered 38 states and had about 40 million people listeners. It was a popular show, and he was quite popular. He was a very interesting guy, and he liked us. So he invited me to come on. I came on alone once, and then he started asking me questions, and I answered him. And he said, we break the stations for every once in a while for commercials. But we would like to change the jingle for the station break. I usually have some kind of little, and we'll be back, folks. So he said, I want to do the Hare Krishna mantra for the station break. So I said, fine. So he recorded me chanting, the typical Hare Krishna tune. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll be back, folks. Okay, so that was it. So a year later, he invited me on again, and he said this time, because he knew I was connected to New Vrindavan, so he said, bring the community leader, who was Kirtananda Swami at the time, and we'll do another show. Now this was the time when the drought was on. So we came on, it was about 4 of us. Kirtananda Swami was there, and he became the person that, the DJ was named Bill Cunningham, and he was interviewing him. And so his interview asking him, and then he says to Kirtananda Swami, can you guys make it rain? Now this is like, droughts has been drought for 3 months, no rain. And Kirtananda Swami said, yes. With a surety. He almost fell off his seat. He said, you guys are going to be known as false prophets. No, we said, no, we can make it run. He said, how? Well, we'll chant Hare Krishna, and we want everyone who's listening there in Radio Land to chant with us. And if we do that, it'll rain. He was really speaking like that. So he got really excited. And he started pumping up the audience, and he started saying, "Hear that, folks? The Swami's going to make it rain." Okay, let's all get into it. So he was just like getting, all right, you got to chant with the Swami. Come on, we're going to make it rain. We got to end this drought. So we got on and we sang our Hare Krishna tune for about 2 or 3 minutes. And then he was at the same time encouraging the audience to join in. Of course, we don't know what's happening. So that was 9:30 a.m. And then about 11:30, the show's still going, we get a call from a roving weather reporter who looks around from Dayton, Ohio. He says, hey, Bill, there's clouds up here. So he calls in, and so now things are looking a lot better. So then the show ends at noon. And at 2:30 that afternoon, there was a torrential downpour. It rained for 3 days. We got it on video. I have this one on video.
And on YouTube?
Huh? We haven't put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Did anyone make the link? Did anyone come later and say, "Oh my God"?
This was back in 1993, so we weren't so techie then.
So Maharaj, this is another form of preaching.
Yeah. So, but what happened? Let me get to the end of this story. So, okay, we did a miracle, supposedly. Obviously, everybody in the radio land were thinking, we got to do something. We'll go along with whatever they're saying. So they chanted. At least many of them did. And so Bill, the disc jockey, he came to us after, and he said, "You guys are great." He said, "I'm going to go to the mayor of the city and ask him to give me the key to the city," which is one of the highest awards you can get from the local government. And he did, and the mayor agreed. And they presented the Hare Krishnas with the key of the city of Cincinnati.
That's VIP preaching.
VIP?
That's VIP.
VIP, yeah.
That's another kind of preaching.
Yeah, generally, just to give a little, little attitude, we don't use the holy name to solve material problems, but this was a great opportunity to preach, because it got people to chant. That was the whole thing, and to get people to chant. So that was, I think that happened a few times in our movement. Devotees made it rain by doing Harinam.
In India, it happens pretty much quite often. Whenever there is no rain, so there is an hour after that we get little rain. That's the
Yeah, Prabhupada talks about when he was a kid, when he was only about 1.5 years old, there was a tremendous plague in Calcutta, and people were dying by the hundreds. And they didn't know what to do. He said, so one Babaji organized Harinam Sankirtan and went from house to house. They were going inside the houses and traveling around. He said, after some time, the plague was gone. Prabhupada talks about that. So we just get a little indication of, so we can find different ways to get people to chant. Yes, Krishna Kirtan.
There was just one devotee told me is how I came to Krishna consciousness story that involved rain. And he was at a rainbow gathering and it was so dry they couldn't have their evening fire. And Kutu Prabhu, for many, many years, preached at the rainbow gatherings. So he got all the hippies together and said, we're going to chant for rain. So this guy, he liked the prasadam, he liked the philosophy, he liked the devotees, but he wasn't convinced, So the Prithu started this kirtan, the whole sky was completely clear, but right above the kirtan, a cloud formed, and this rain came pouring down. And when he said, when Prithu made it rain, I was convinced.
It's like a shower in one place.
I was dancing in the rain.
Yeah, Anand Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanya Sanhana Sambhavan. Krishna says in Gita. Yes.
So cultural education like music and...
Cultural education, can you explain more?
So for example, in Toronto, we started music classes, music and dance classes and other children and adults in the temple.
Mm.
And we are seeing that people who never used to come to the temple, they come just for those classes and they end up having to stay for the Sunday feast because that's when the classes go on.
Mm.
So the children are down there. And the parents
So the children make the parents Krishna conscious.
Yeah. I mean, the parents wanted the child to learn this instrument or that skill or that dance or whatever.
Yeah.
And somehow or the other it coincided with the Sunday feast. And they are in there with the devotees. So they come in and come in and come in.
Mm. Did you get that one? Let's see. Cultural education, music, dance, teaching instruments, language.
Yeah, even language. Especially all the Indians, they want to keep the language and
Keep the culture.
they want to keep the language. So, but there's no opportunity to do that. So there are lots of devotees who speak various languages. So they say, let's do a language class. So they teach them Hindi, teach them Sanskrit.
Mm.
But they don't teach them Sanskrit, they teach them the Bhagavad Gita.
That's good. That's the real Sanskrit. Yeah. Nice. That yes, Guru Prasad.
In many countries, Padayatra has been used.
Padayatra? Yeah. We do that in Slovenia and other places. And Padayatra around the world with Lokanath Swami. He made that famous. There's actually a book that came out. What's his name? Siromani? Something Siromani. Avadutta Siromani. He put this huge, beautiful book together, all about Padayatras around the world.
More than 100 countries.
100 countries. We planted a lot of seeds, yes. Another way?
Yes, catering. Prashad catering.
Prashad, how would you do that?
Well, people come to have events, birthday, meetup,
Okay.
festival, stuff like that. They
Mhm.
come in Montreal because we were all vegetarian. So, yeah, we cook for them. And sell prashad. And then we ship them to the place. Sometimes we have like 2, 3, the best birthday was when we had 3 catering at once and different preparations. It demands a whole lot. It demands a very good cook and do a huge quantity and has lots of big repertoire. But Prashad gets out. And also we get cake demand because we know how to make eggless cake and we have expert cake makers.
Right. Yeah, devotees do that. A lot of devotees do that individually. They cater out their cooking to different agencies, to offices like that. Yes, okay.
I'm thinking like exhibitions.
Exhibitions?
Like in India, they have some
Well, Bhakti Siddhanta did the, what is that called, diorama? That was big. Dioramas. Still, we do that. In Detroit, they have a beautiful, beautiful diorama exhibition. People can go and so. In Delhi, it's animatronics. Yeah, another way to preach. What's another way?
The Gita contest.
Gita contest.
Yeah. Vichar Maharaj started that a few years ago in India. And it has started in other parts of the world also. Where basically there's a contest around the Gita. You're supposed to basically learn from the Gita and then do a contest. And a couple of years ago, a Muslim won that contest. But he studied the Gita.
A Muslim won the contest because he studied the Gita. Interesting. Interesting. I wonder where he is now.
She.
She.
Young, small girl.
Oh, small girl.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so Gita contest, Purnamasi. Yeah.
Plays and skits. We used to have
Drama.
skits on the street.
Yeah, drama. Either in the streets. When Prabhupada saw, I don't remember, maybe Lakshmi Moni knows, one drama, he became so excited and he said to the drama players, "This is better than my books. You should get in my book."
Kidnapping of
And also kidnapping of Romania and New York, Brooklyn.
Yeah. He said, "You should all get visas and travel with me." Rasagya.
Lohitaksha.
Yeah, Rasagya and then
Lohitaksha.
Lokataksha.
Lohitaksha.
Yeah, yeah. Sudama. It wasn't practical because to try to travel with Prabhupada would be very hard, possible. But Prabhupada was so excited to see that here is a great way to spread Krishna consciousness, doing dramas. And another thing I would suggest, for here you have a congregation of devotees, do that as a part of the Sunday program. It really brings devotees together. It really binds devotees in a stronger Krishna conscious relationship when you start doing plays together. It's a real way to unite devotees and to also, of course, to preach to guests and to others. Yes.
I just want to highlight Mother Purnamasi's point about street theater. I never saw it done, but I heard a devotee might start yelling, "Help! Help! I'm drowning! I'm drowning!" And people would start gathering around, what? And then they tell us, the boatman story, and it would attract the crowd. And then someone would, give the moral of the story, and then they'd start up a kirtan. It was a crowd attractor. I haven't heard it done in some years, but it can be very effective.
Yeah, street theater. Good.
In New York, go out in the middle of the street and start screaming like he's. And then someone goes, wait a minute, I'll save you, just a minute. You take his coat off and swim in the street. You grab the person's jacket and bring it back. You say, here's the jacket. That's not my husband, that's the jacket! And then,
Yeah, it's good. In New York, it would definitely work easy. Because it looked like the regular scene there. It'll fit in really nice. Yeah, but if you can do it in other places, try Montreal.
And related to what Mother Purnamasi said is our godbrother Sankirtan Prabhu, who's a storyteller.
Yeah, Nuvardhavan, yeah.
And you can go traveling all around.
He used to do hospitals, he used to do, old age homes.
Krishna Priya's father does something also with
Yeah.
guitar. He goes around and tells stories about his son.
Yeah. Where's another one? Here's one, I'm going to put one in. Puppet shows.
Vishnu John Swami was the
Yeah.
first, I think.
Puppet shows. These are good ways, especially for, it really attracts kids. Hare Krishna puppet shows. Yes. I think Krishna Dulal, your mother was talking about that.
She does that.
She does that, yeah. Yes.
Food for Life in India.
Food for life, distributing food in different places. Yes.
Prison preaching.
Okay.
Prison.
Prison preaching. Just about a month ago, I went to one prison in Croatia, and the toughest crowd to preach to is the inmates. My experience is because they're always looking at you like, what do you got to offer? They're in the mood of just seeing and kind of evaluating, testing you. It's not like they're a receptive audience. Some of them are really like critical. So we went to one jail, and I was met by this escort. It was kind of like a counselor, and I said, we're walking, and I said, how many people are going to come? He said, because they put out a notice, we say we're going to jail, so they put out a notice in jail and say, you want to come to the Hare Krishna program. So the inmates can come, they can choose. So he said maybe 7 or 8 will come. So when we got there, it was 15, so it was good. So we sat down, it was 3 of us, and one devotee, Prem Murti, he started to sing, and we tried to get everyone to sing. We passed out mantra cards, nobody sang. They're all It's just like this, you know. So, okay, so we got through our kirtan, and then I gave a lecture on karma, that you're trying to get out, but you can't get out of your karma. Because the mindset of an inmate is, I just gotta get out of this place. So what I was telling them, it doesn't matter whether you're inside or outside, you're going to get the results of your karma any place you go. So I gave a whole lecture on karma, and I got a lot of questions. I got fired on questions. Karma in Sweden is better than Croatia. So that's what they were saying. I said, no, there's more suicides in Sweden. So, you know, it was like a different thing. So, you know, I mean, the questions are not like humble and submissive. They're challenging, firing at you just to see what you got. So I stayed with it because I like to fight too. So we got back and forth. And so they liked it. And at the end, we decided to do another kirtan. And this time they all chanted. Wow. Practically all of them. Maybe a few didn't. But one person actually became emotional and he almost cried. He came up to me at the end and said, I was getting sentimental. So, you know, that's the way they talk. I said, that's good. And there was one Englishman there who was coming from London. He happened to be in jail in Croatia. He said, can you give me all the books you got available? So we sent him books. So the program was complete success at the end. Practically everyone, we distributed 30 books that day. Because we bring books in, and they come, and we allow them to take books at the end. If anybody wants books, we have books here, so they can take 2, 3, 4 books. Yes.
Just wanted to add to that. I did my one and only prison preaching program in India once. Ayendra said, hey, we got a prison program today in Agra. You want to come? All right. So they put us up on a stage, and it was a big open yard in the outside, and there were several hundred prisoners. And gradually, as Ayendra Prabhu built up the kirtan, just spontaneously, the prisoners got up and they were dancing like Lord Chaitanya, like even more enthusiastically than many devotees do. And you could just see it was in their culture, it was in their blood. It was like someone threw a match to the fuel, and the devotee in them all came. You couldn't really tell the difference between, a follower of Mahaprabhu and all these prisoners. It was so enlightening.
Yeah, that's India. India's like, I've done programs in India like that. The whole jail just comes alive. Yes,
we did some prison preaching in Florida. And the prisoners were very, very receptive, but the people who run the prison were very Christian, and they did everything they could possibly do to get us out of there. And the more interest that there was, the more they tried to get us out of there. There's some Christian groups that do weekend retreats and do all kinds of meditation and stuff. So there is if you can get in, there is, if they have a captive audience, they're very good, actually.
Yeah, my experience is that practically each jail is different. Sometimes you get a favorable chaplain, sometimes you get one like the one you mentioned. It's just, you just got to go with it, that's all. Yeah, that's one of the toughest preaching, because it's really about planting some seeds. Well, we have at least, I'd say maybe 1,600 to 2,000 people chanting in the United States in jails now, regularly. So we're just flooded in, we just give them Prabhupada's books mostly. Yes?
This is also another tough audience, which is interfaith.
Interfaith. Yeah. It can be tough because different traditions see things differently. Like we did interfaith preaching in Chicago, which is the heart of, the World Parliament of Religions. In Chicago, it's the place where, what was that? Who's that famous Swami from India? Vivekananda. He came there in 1993, and that was the beginning of the Parliament of Religions in 1990. So there was a tradition. So, yeah, when we did a few programs, and one of the problems we had was with deities, because the Jews and the Islamic cultures don't accept deities. Yeah. So, but one of the things is when we did have a festival, a broad festival, included all the groups, invited their followers, they asked us to do the cooking because they know we're the best. So, but then we got some protests because when they found out you offer this food to the idols, so then they were criticizing and said, they said you can cook it, but you can't offer it to your, idols, as they said. So we said, okay, so we offered it to Prabhupada. So we got around that. So, yeah, that's another tough audience, interfaith preaching like that.
I just wanted to give a personal experience. The last time I did interfaith preaching, I've had contact with a Muslim-related group called Ahmadiyya, and they invited me up to north of Toronto to speak. And it was really interesting. I was representing Hinduism, and there was a Baha'i fellow that spoke before me, and he was talking about each of the world's religions. But he focused mostly on the Bhagavad Gita, and he started telling the story of Arjuna and Krishna, and how Arjuna had to surrender to Krishna. And I was thinking, so when it came to my turn, I said, well, I'd like to thank the Baha'i representative. He basically gave my presentation, and everyone laughed. And then I went on to give my little talk. And at the end, I found, I saw the people at the Muslim table, they were really looking at my table because I set up books. And a lot of people, I saw my table was more busy than anybody else's table there for book distribution. So,
yeah.
And also at a previous time, I met a professor, and I told her I'd speak in universities on Hinduism, or I used the Hinduism title as a way to bring in Krishna, and I got a few school engagements out of that. So it's a good place to network, and there's good content.
Yeah, this is another way. Okay, we explored at least, we got 29. We're pretty much at the end of time here. Any last ones? Ideas for preaching?
Care, devotees and non-devotees.
And devotee care? Taking care of non-devotees? How would you do that? Give them... Give them Krishna consciousness. That's a good way to take care of non-devotees. Oh, just being human. Yeah, being polite. Yes?
We have a program in Montreal called Response Back Tea. So basically we cook for them vegan food. Because it's a vegan crowd. And then if we focus more on Mahamantra, we don't have a lot of quality. Because many times people hear from us, they just heard the word good and they just turn away and you don't see them anymore. But we do have book table, they do show picture. And it is very, very, well, it is popular.
Good. Continue.
So I guess just having a program outside the temple when it's not too scary, because in the temple, this is where, for non-initiated, it is scary. And what are they doing? This? What am I spilling? Do they have drugs in this? What do they have? But if I read this, this is a question I had when I came in. Thankfully, the Lord purified me quickly. But yeah, just be outside the temple.
But if you remain, friendly, open, then they get beyond that.
Some people, they cannot even walk in the temple. Not even
Well, this is another class. What are the obstacles in preaching? Today we talked about. So we have one more class tomorrow. We can explore some obstacles. So maybe we can print this out and maybe have it available for devotees. Everyone should think, let me plug into one or more of these different kinds of programs. And let me assist Lord Chaitanya in his preaching of Krishna consciousness. Because this says, Prabhupada says, this is what we have to do. Everyone has to be involved in some kind of outreach. Could be any of these or even things we didn't mention. Just think, how can I be an instrument for my spiritual master's mercy, my Srila Prabhupada's mercy, to to the fallen souls. And then Prabhupada says, you immediately get recognized by Krishna. It says immediately. Okay, so we can't go on too far because there's another class coming up. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.
Jai.